Hi everybody, Dr. Pingle here. Wanted to give a lesson on overlaying historical maps or maps that you might not have, that might not be georeferenced, and how to get them into ArcGIS. So where I thought we'd start would be the University of Illinois library that has a number of maps, historical maps online. It's a really interesting collection. You can browse it. And all of these are available for educational use. So there's some really nice ones in here. Feel free to take a look around. For this lesson, what I'd like you to do is to grab one of the maps of Chicago that you see. So if you type Chicago into the search, you'll get a number of different choices in here. What I wanted to do was map one of my favorites. So if you scroll down the list, this one is a map of the city of Chicago. You can click on these things and they'll come up. You can kind of browse them, but you can also download them. So I'm going to download the large version of this. And so this is an image. You can see the pier right here, and you can see a lot of the road and rail structures that are much the same as they are today. So this map dates to 1873. You can see that it's got a scale on it, 2 inches per mile. But there's no georeferencing information. So the question is, how do you overlay this or any map like it into ArcGIS? So we can start by opening up ArcGIS and we'll add a base map here. And it doesn't really matter what you pick. Any of these would be fine. I'm going to pick imagery with labels, so that'll tile in here in a second. And we'll just browse straight in to Chicago. Okay, so we're near the area here where we want to overlay. So the first step is to sort of to get things close, to open a map, any map in the viewer that's going to help you locate it. So the next thing that's often a good idea is to reproject the data that you're working in into a coordinate system that matches that of the map that you're trying to bring in. So in this case, this is the map of Chicago. There's no projection information that's printed on it, and so it's not exactly clear what they used. But if that's the case, sometimes you'll get lucky and sometimes you'll see a spot that kind of notes what the actual projection is. In this case, we have to make a good guess. So any map that's going to minimize distortion locally is going to be a good guess. In that case, what we probably want to do is pick something like State Plane, Illinois. So we'll do Illinois State Plane, and I happen to know that we are in Illinois State Plane East. You could always Google that. So if we go back into the browser, we can take a look for State Plane coordinate system, and any of these will be sort of helpful. So I'll just generally take a look. So you can see that this one is NAD 83, North American datum of 1983, State Plane Coordinate System. And we are here, or Chicago anyway is here, so that's 1201. So that's what's called an EPSG code. And you can take a look at these. One of the easiest to do is to kind of take a look at spatialreference.org, and they have all of these listed. This is EPSG 4326, one of the most common, but we could look for 1201, and we'd come up with these. So we've got any of these would probably be fine. We've got a nice local one for Chicago. We'll go ahead and click on this one. So you can get a lot of information about this. This is a .prj file. So these are the files that you often see associated with shape files. So if you wanted to take a look at that, you can actually see what these look like. So we could open it up with notepad. Okay, so just some extra information in here, again in plain text format about that particular datum. Okay, so let's assume that that's correct. It doesn't have to be precise. So we're going to type in 1201 here. No luck. So state, we'll go back, state plane, Illinois East. All right, clearly searching is not working for us. So let's just look for it manually. So we'll browse to projected coordinate system, state plane. We've got a number of different of these. They don't matter so much. If we really wanted to be precise, clearly since the map is before any of these datums were created, it's not any of these. We're just looking for any one of these that's going to minimize distortion locally. So we'll go with NAT83 from 2011 in meters. Again, not so crucial. And we'll pick state plane Illinois East. And again, here's our FIPS 1201 code. So our base map is now getting reprojected into state plane. We probably won't see any visual difference. The original one was in a Mercator projection anyway, which also minimizes distortion locally. So not too much of a difference there. This reprojection would be very difficult for the computer to do at scale. So you'd start to see it lag, but as long as you're kind of working locally, it should be fine. So we'll zoom in a little bit here. Try to minimize this as much as possible. You can accelerate the process by downloading base maps that are static, so you can always go on the national map and look for something. But as long as we have something that's reasonable, we're in okay shape. Okay, so let's bring in our image. So we have, this is our map of the city of Chicago. We're just going to drag and drop that in. Now remember, there's no spatial information attached to this image. It's completely not georeferenced. So ARC is going to have no idea where to put this. So it's going to warn you, and it's going to say the following data source doesn't have any spatial reference information. Doesn't know what to do. It's going to stick it anywhere it can. And so you're not going to see that image show up. It's down here, right here. So we can zoom to it. Oh, that's the reference layer, my mistake. Here we go. Zoom to this. Okay, so this map is put nowhere where it belongs. It is not related to this coordinate system really at all. So it's just made its own terrible guess about where that is. And if we zoom out far enough, you'll see how bad of a guess that was. So you can see just the border of Missouri here. Here's Illinois. It's basically stuck this image near the false origin associated with the state plane system, which just happens to be in this area, but far, far away where it's supposed to be in Chicago. So let's see if we can figure out how to get it back. So we'll zoom back into Chicago here because we know that's where it's going to go. Under your geoprocessing, under Customize and Toolbars, we're going to have an option for georeferencing. So we're going to turn that on. And as long as you don't have too many other layers, it'll probably make a pretty good guess about the thing that you want to georeference. That's the only thing on our list that's not georeferenced. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn on the viewer. So it's going to open an extra window that's separate from our ARC window. It's going to have just our map in it. So here's our map of Chicago. We can zoom in on this independently. So we'll do that, and we can actually be pretty, we can get in pretty detailed. And we're going to switch back to ARC and bring up the same image. So here we've got a little bit of information about the pier. It's a little bit different than it was, but it's close enough that we can actually make a pretty good guess about where these things used to be. In fact, it might be that sort of the slip area here is our best guess. So we have the river kind of moving through. Things have been restructured. This in particular looks like it's probably new. And maybe the best choice is going to be somewhere like this notch here. And we don't have to be incredibly precise. We'll just make a good guess here. Okay, so we need to keep our georeferencing window open. So we're going to add a control point. So a control point is going to move things from the source, the ungeoreferenced layer, to the referenced map coordinate layer. So we're going to hit this button, and it's going to bring up a crosshair. And what we're going to do is try to pick sort of where this street meets the, it looks like this is Indiana Street, where this meets the coast. So we'll make a click here. And now our goal is to click that in the same exact place here. So we're going to zoom in. And we'll wait for this to tile in so that we have some reasonably good labels. And if we're lucky, we'll see Indiana Street tile in or come in with the label. So it's kind of covered up a little bit. We're just going to have to make our best guess here. So probably somewhere in this neighborhood. Again, you want to be as accurate as possible, but we're just looking for a rough georeference. You can actually always adjust this later. So we'll hit our second dot there, and you can see that the map has come in. Now we need at least 2 points, and better 3, to do a good job georeferencing. And some of the things that you might need to be careful about are kind of in this georeferencing tab. And this one in particular is often very important. So we're in the midst of a georeference, so we don't have a lot of options here. But the more complicated the georeferencing job, if there's distortions, if there's mismatches between the original and the target, you may have to use some of these other methods. But we're gonna stick with what we've got. So we're still in this mode where we're adding points. We can actually open a table to see these points coming in. So there's our first point. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a second point. So I'm using the scroll wheel on my mouse to try to minimize sort of my contact here, and we're going to try to pick another location that we're interested in. So we're going to pick the corner at Humboldt Park. So we'll see if we can get all of the cross streets here. It's a little difficult to make this out. But we've got the corner of Humboldt Park, and I can't even get this cross street here, but we should be able to identify it. Okay, so we click on our second point. I'm going to uncheck the city of Chicago here for a second. And now I can see my original, or I can see Chicago again. And let's see if we can pick out Humboldt Park. Okay. So might need to zoom out a little more. So I hold down my center button on my mouse to pan while I'm doing this. So here's Humboldt Park, and we'll try to get this dot at the same notch. Okay, so looks like probably about there. Okay. Now it looks like we probably made a mistake. So we picked this corner originally and we moved it in here. So we have a bit of a problem here. Let's uncheck this one. This time we'll pick the northeast corner. Okay, that's quite a bit better. Turn this back on. And we're going to delete that second link. Okay. Holding down the center mouse button again, we're going to try to pick one more point. 3 points usually produces a pretty good registration. We're already pretty close to the ballpark here. Let's see if we can pick another prominent feature. So this is Douglas Park. If we uncheck this, we can get a good sense of whether or not that's underneath. And we're pretty close. This time we'll zoom in here and we'll pick the southwest corner of Douglas Park. So 1. And we'll try to put that in the southwest corner on the orthophoto. And 2. Okay. So we've got 3 points linked. We'll turn our layer back on. And we have something that looks like this. So we'll zoom to this layer. Now, the transformation we can actually change while we're working through this. So you can see that the map started to skew. And we can sort of decide for ourselves about whether we think that is a reasonable approximation. This looks pretty good to me, at least for a first cut. Now, the more points you add to the transformation and the higher order the transformation, the better off you'll be in terms of a match. And sometimes it can be difficult to get a very old map to match perfectly. But this is at least a chance for you to see how it can be done. So I encourage you to give it a try. Download any one of the maps from the historical archive at the University of Illinois. And give it a shot. It's actually pretty easy to do, and you should be able to do it in about 20 minutes. So thanks very much, and we'll catch you next time.